guys recently had to pull out of Dota 2 because there was some scheduling conflicts. What's your take on that?
Well, it's not that we pulled out of Dota 2. It's that Anaheim, which we had announced some time ago, and we were really excited to deliver to the fans and the players, it became a situation where there was going to be oversaturation, not just from a content standpoint, but the teams were going to be put in a position where, I mean, honestly, can you 4 events stacked, and that was before a 5th event, which got announced since then, back to back to back. The travel plus just being on the grind like that didn't seem right, especially leading into the international, because as much as we love our events and we're fans of what DreamHack and ESL do, the international is the crown jewel, right? Last year, a lot of teams took time off leading into the international. So, you know, it was one of those decisions where it was unfortunate. I understand why ESL had to have that date. You know, DreamHack, we had some conversation where we even had some overlap potentially, but we pushed back, and it was too much. So, you know, Dota is a game that we really dove into, and we really put a lot of time and effort into it, especially Adam. And so it was a hard decision for us. I even was lobbying, saying, you know what, let's just spend more money on it. Let's put more prize money out there. But the problem is that wouldn't have solved the problem for the players. They still would have had all the travel, and to go Europe, North America, it was selfish, right, on my part to try and do that, I think, to a certain extent. And I've eventually kind of listened to Adam and listened to the guys and said, all right, let's just let's try and gracefully say, you know, we're going to step out for this. We'll figure it out. We'll come back with something. We still have our TKO programming. We still have our partnerships with the studios that are producing content for us around Dota. We're seeing growth there, but you know, sadly, it won't be in the room in Anaheim, so we won't be able to have that experience for that event. But you know, we're already looking at what we can do towards the end of the year, and you know, an opportunity to have another LAN event with it.
So we could definitely expect more Dota 2 or something.
Yeah, we're still running it. I mean, we're still doing online stuff. I mean, the good news for us is that since we rolled out MLG TV, we have other options, right? So the LAN events, while we love them, can't have them every weekend. There's conflict. There's only so many weekends in the year. We have our friends at DreamHack running events. We've got ESL. We've got the LCS. We have WCS. We have, you know, everybody's got their thing. So you want to have a situation where everyone gets their moment to shine, and you know, so it gets complicated. But being able to go online and do things on a Monday night or a Tuesday night and have regularly scheduled programming, it actually helps a lot for us. I mean, because we're able to monetize that, we're able to take that money, invest it back into the game. And you know, our goal there is really to talk to the organizations, the teams, and the players, and figure out what can we add. Like, how can we be additive to what's already happening there? Because what we don't want to run into is what we saw a few years ago with StarCraft, which is everyone is just running towards this game and having events that are overlapping or one after the other, and you get to a place of where, well, maybe it's not good for the overall scene because it's not sustainable. And if we're somebody who comes in and has an event or a year or 2 events a year as a LAN, great. If it, you know, we'll let that market determine that. We'll let the fans and the players determine that. But we're not going to force it. We tried that in the past and it doesn't work.
So now that you've moved to MLG TV for a considerable amount of the effort that you're putting into what you're doing, would you now, if something like WCS came your way, say pass on it again?
Well, it's interesting. It was a different time then, right? And there were a lot of things that were playing out that were very complicated behind the scenes. You know, and the recent NASL news, and you know, it's tough. And it's not to say that the game isn't healthy and that there isn't a scene for it and there isn't the ability to support it properly. But you have to have all the parties that are involved aligned in a way which makes sense for them. And that's what we struggled with last time. We thought we had something set up, but there were some intricacies to the deal that just didn't play out well. Right? And so, again, us being us, we were viewed as bad guys in that and pulling out of it, but we had to, right? Because it could have been us that were impacted by that negatively over time. And you know, as much as I'm a big fan of the game and love working with Blizzard, you can't jeopardize my company and the jobs of, you know, the 60 employees that I have because I'm passionate about a game. If we came back and we sat down and had a conversation about WCS in a way that made sense for all parties, absolutely, we'd consider it. The game's going to be in Anaheim. I mean, we're fans of this entire scene. We may have some games that we favor a little bit because maybe we play them and we're a little better at them, individually, but we want the entire scene to have the amount of support and growth that it deserves, and we are willing to invest in that. We've proven that for years, but that was just a situation where what happened had to happen for us, and it's done well without us, and it will continue to do well. And if the opportunity presents itself, we'll consider it and happily sit with them and talk through it. But that's down the line. We're focused on what we're doing today, and having StarCraft be part of what we're doing with the Total Biscuit partnership, which has been great, and what we're going to do at Anaheim. But WCS is Blizzard's baby, and we're very mindful and respectful of that. And if we can help in any way, shape, or form, we will.
Okay. Different game. Call of Duty. What makes that community so special?
Well, it's big, right? There's a lot of them, and they're vocal, and they're young, and it's kind of an everyman's game. A lot of the games that we operate have barriers to entry around skill gap and just accessibility, like Dota or League of Legends, are very big games by their own right, but there's challenges for some people, right? Call of Duty is one of those phenomena where on the console market, which is a big focus for us, as you know, it's wildfire, right? Every year it's going to be big, and every year that's going to have its detractors because it's such a massive franchise, but every year it's going to have a huge install base to work with. What we've finally gotten to is a position where there's been enough formalization around the competitive scene that you have personalities developing and team brands developing, very similar to what we've seen in games like Counter-Strike, for example, or back when we did Halo all the time, League of Legends or Dota. So you've got these familiar faces where people are attached to them for a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons. There's an ebb and a flow to it. It's predictable. And so that just helps, right? That just gives you more attach points and more moments to create stories and more moments for events like this to happen. I think every gaming community is special, honestly. It's just, with this, it's very accessible, right? So it starts very young. You've got 10, 11, 12-year-old kids who are playing it, even though they're not supposed to, maybe, and it goes all the way up to people like me, who a little older, playing with, my kids and my friends. So that's one thing about it that's very special, is that it is accessible and open. And honestly, I think that both Activision and Microsoft have, in the last year and a half or so, I would say, really taken a look at supporting that community, looking at the traditional esports titles, like a Quake even. I've had conversations with them about Quake, about Counter-Strike, about League of Legends, Dota, StarCraft, and seeing what they can learn and how they can leverage that and apply that to what they're trying to do.
Do you think it's a strength or not a strength that there's an annual release cycle for a new game?
The annual release cycle thing is a challenge, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's because, especially when you have multiple developers in play, and the schedules are, your window is shortened, obviously. But for us, what we've realized is, if we have someone who wants to work with us, we have someone who wants to embrace this and invest back into it, we have to work with that, right? So some people do it differently, right? Valve does it differently than Blizzard, does it differently than Riot, does it differently than Activision, right? So it has a unique set of challenges, right? But those challenges are not that much harder to deal with than, let's say, a game that's 5, 6, 7 years old, right? It's just, those challenges have to be addressed in different ways. You have to understand that at the end of the day, and a lot of people in our scene don't like this word, but it's a business, right? And so if there's a business reason for these people to be involved in esports and support it, and the community recognizes that they can get more support by being receptive, even if it's not perfect, because it's never ever perfect at first, then we have the opportunity to build and build and build. And what I'm excited for is what we're going to have in 2 years, right? In 2 years from now, when the proliferation of competitive PC gaming, with Counter-Strike making a comeback, League of Legends, Dota, console side of things, where we're going to probably see a new Halo title. We know we're going to see it, but we'll see a new Halo title, another Call of Duty, other shooters coming to the console. The conversation at a developer point and a publisher point involves esports for the first time ever, right? So we've fought for this for years. Some of us a decade more, right? But to be able to sit down and say, when you're crafting out your plan, competitive gaming, esports is part of that, and you have a roadmap which spans many years, that is an advantage, and a game with a yearly release cycle has helped influence that. So while it's not ideal, it's been part of the momentum creation at the broader business side, so it's good.
You mentioned earlier that console is becoming a more and more important part of your audience. Can you tell us about the streaming numbers and how that is?
Yeah, so we're, it's no secret. We started with console and we've added PC, and now we're back very strong on console again. It's interesting because our Xbox app, which we just launched this week, our viewing app, we have more in the works on competition and broadcast, but for the viewing app, we immediately saw this engagement of people downloading and watching for an hour, right? And the numbers are strong with no promotion because we're waiting to figure out exactly what we're doing with it. But the first day I think we had 20,000 people try it, and that's not just who downloaded, but actually tried it, right? And they were watching for an hour, and so that's fantastic because it's a they call it over the top, right? So it's that over the top television experience where look, it's digital content delivered on my TV, so I can lean back, and it's encouraging because the app is bare bones viewing only for eSports, for competitive gaming, and for personalities within competitive gaming. So PlayStation 3, 4, and Vita following after that. Our mobile apps are ready for certification. So the distribution picture across all of these connected devices is incredibly important to us because we're leaving opportunity unrealized if we don't focus on it. The great news, especially with the Microsoft partnership, is they're partners in it. Right? So they helped us develop the app. They helped us get the app out on time for this Call of Duty Championships. They're going to promote the app. We're going to put unique content into that app. We're going to work with their third-party publishing partners to create channels within that app that showcase upcoming content. So for me, it's exciting because I get to play with a new distribution platform that somebody else has to worry about the logistics of how it gets in front of people, right? I mean, I'll just continue to say, hey, go download it. There it is. Here's a new show. Here's a new game that we're showcasing. But Microsoft has a vested interest in promoting it as well. So I'm excited. And I think we've taken a walk before you run approach with it. But so far, this morning we were looking. I think when we first spun up, there were 50, 60,000 people watching. This event started at 9 a.m. on a Friday. Well, a good third of them were mobile. Were viewed via the app when I checked. I don't know if that's held because honestly I'm having conversations like this, but that's a great thing for us. Like that, we did not have that 2 weeks ago, right? And so that's another area for us to get growth, another area for us to have a partner in Microsoft who's looking at that and saying, what other content can you put in there? So I'm excited to look at that.
2 years from now, what do you think the distribution will be between mobile, console, and PC for audience?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, we see up to 30% of our audience coming to us through connected devices and being mobile, right? Because we didn't have a console app until this week. My personal consumption habits aside, because I'm slightly older than the average guy, I think you're just going to see more and more on the mobile front. Console is easy because, right, for us, especially in the a lot of what we're focusing on, people are playing on a console, so they're watching for an hour and a half, they're playing for 3, right? So that engagement time, right, you see it consistent on that one device, right? But as our audience grows to the 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid who gets his first smartphone, honestly, I watch and I see the consumption of our community members and of my own children. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years we're above 50% on mobile. It's just, it's a fantastic platform, sitting in bed, eating breakfast, on the bus, in the back of the car on the way to practice, right? There's just something about mobile which is incredibly exciting as we're able to develop and deliver more and more video content there and more experiences around competition. So I think anybody who doesn't bet on mobile is making a huge mistake in general. Connected device, everyone's talking about distribution, Roku, Apple TV, Xbox 360 in one, PS4, obviously, but Android, iOS, it's just massive. You can't argue with it. It's massive. It's everywhere. So, length of time spent on the device may not equal what you're going to see on a PC or a console because those are more kind of casual. Okay, you're not going to show up to practice and have to turn off your console. But I just think the overall time is going to shift dramatically to mobile because that's your phone. So you're able to watch what you want on your phone without having to take the TV away, without having to be on the only PC in the house, right? And so as more and more of those devices come out and it's easier to deliver high quality video, I don't see any reason to think it's going to go down.
Okay. Staying on streaming. So it seems like the space is getting pretty crowded with a lot of new players coming in. You, Twitch, Subu, Hitbox, Dailymotion, and the list goes on, right?
Yeah.
Is that changing anything for you to have like so many players in the space?
No, I think, look, we're not a mass market streaming play, right? I mean, what we are is we're very focused. We're 5%ers in terms of influential personalities, league partners, event partners, right? And so what we do is a little bit different, and we monetize a little differently, right? I talk about it all the time. We beat our chest about how well we monetize. I think what Twitch has built is phenomenal. It's incredible. The scale is wonderful. But most of that scale is not really valuable to me, right? So if you think about if I have a personality and I have to deliver 90 to 95% fill rate, the high CPM to this person, I can't have 999,000 other people streaming because I'm going to serve across all of that, right? I may be able to favor him, but I need to serve across all of it, right? Or otherwise, I'm not monetizing video traffic. It's not a bad. I mean, that is a bad thing, right? For me, it's like I can't do it. Twitch is different though. They're set up. They're scale. Azubu, I think, is going to be trying to do a lot of what Twitch is doing, and I think it's going to have a hard time. But they have a war chest to spend against it, so they'll probably go after some things that fit into their ecosystem really well. League of Legends teams, maybe StarCraft, maybe events, through their partnership with ESL, ESGN, whoever it may be. That's great. I don't want to do that either, right? I don't want to get into a spending war over, content with somebody who's going to just be overspending for the sake of overspending, right? What I need to do is I need to be very measured in it. And you're going to see other players, right? And the elephant in the room is YouTube, right? If YouTube really cared, in a week, they could put engineering resources against this that would dwarf what any of us have. They have more resources than anybody. They have more experience and more audience, right? But this piece of their business is not important, right? Display advertising and AdWords, that's where all the engineering resources go because of massive businesses that dwarf this. So what we have to do is what everybody has to do is just hope that destabilization doesn't occur because $35 million enters the market and is spent like a drunk pirate, who was ashore, right? You want to make sure that money is invested intelligently. And I've done the drunk pirate thing and I've done the intelligent thing, and I know the intelligent thing is better long term, right? My hope is that we see some competition, right? Because that's what this is about, and some segmentation. Twitch is the mass play. They're huge and they're fantastic at it. We're going for something slightly more focused. Azubu, we'll see. Hitbox, who knows? There's 3 or 4 more that are going to be coming out. We all know about them, but at the end of the day, what will happen is natural consolidation, right? We used to have own TV, live streams out there, Ustreams out there. There have been other players in the space. We've been live streaming our events for the last 6 years. We've just finally created a platform because we saw that we had to. A lot of that due to what we saw happening with Twitch. So of course we're going to attract people into the space. And there may be, again, people with deep pockets. An interesting thing would be if YouTube were to suddenly say, this is really important to us, which they may, and who they would align with in this, who they would partner with. Because that, I think, is, they're the front runner in all video on the web, right? They're it. They have the scale that beats everything. But I think I think it's good for right now. I think where it could become bad is if we get ourselves into a situation like we saw with the end of Owned, where teams and players are suffering because the business can't support itself, and so there's deals in place that aren't being honored because they can't, they're just financially insolvent. That would be unfortunate.
Yes. On that, one of my writers did an interview with you regarding CPMs.
Yes.
The question is, those CPMs, can you scale with, first of all, are they sustainable, and can you scale with them? Are you delivering on them right now? Yeah,
we are. It's I mean, seasonal markets, in advertising, up and down. You know this. You run a property that deals in advertising revenue. You're going to see ups and downs, right? The first quarter is always a little soft, but with strong direct sold, you may not have the volume, but you still have it. What's really important is having the ability to backfill against that. I don't think that, again, and that's why I look at having 20 partners, streaming partners, as opposed to 500 or 5,000 or 10,000. 20, I can say, okay, I've got $150,000 from this campaign, I'm going to spread it here, right? I've got 100 from this campaign, I've got 300 from this campaign. Everybody's happy, right? It gets difficult at scale, but that's, again, I'm not trying to create scale in that way where I have 2,000 partners. I'm trying to create scale on the receiving end, where I have 10 million people watching, right? Because once I burn through that, let's call it $750,000 in direct sold for a month, or half a month, or whatever it may be, whenever those campaigns are. I have programmatic, I have other campaigns backfilling because these have finished quickly. I have the ability to grow out, right? So as our machine, the way it's constructed is, as our audience grows, our direct sold benefits, our programmatic benefits, because it's the whole, boats rising with the water thing. But again, you multiply it by 100, and suddenly it starts to hurt my head. And multiply it by 1,000,000, and it's massive. It's not how we're set up. But I think that's, again, YouTube isn't a play where they're saying we're getting, $20 CPMs across these things. It's volume, right? A volume play can work. It's just not what we're doing.
Okay, last question, I think. Major League Gaming is now the ESPN of gaming with a streaming platform. Is there ever going to be a point where Major League Gaming will be major gaming?
Major gaming.
And not league?
You take the league out? So the league component to it, our name, our heritage and everything is about competition, right? And so the event side of things, is it a circuit, is it a league, all these things. Our ability to run leagues in an online environment is far greater than it's ever been. I mean, our competition platform runs over 1 million matches a month. There's, I think, 9.5 million registered players on that platform. We give away a lot of money. It's a huge consumer revenue growth engine for us. It feeds our pro circuit events and events like this. So it's not that there would be no league in MLG. It would be that league evolves, right? Physical events are fantastic, and we all love them. We love LANs, we love getting together. But we can't have one every weekend, right? We can't be out here all the time running these events. So as we evolve and shift, and the tools are become more readily available to us to run these events online, we're going to do more of it. As we start to get baked into games earlier, as our API and tech layer is kind of opened up, and we're able to do this stuff in an automated fashion, scale, right? The magic word. Can this scale? Yeah, then you can. But we talk about it a lot. Like, how many events are the right amount? How many times a year do we need to do this? What we're going to do is we're going to have our events, which we own and operate, and our partner events. And we're going to find a sweet spot there where we can help support some other folks in the space who are operating events, maybe give them some financial support, some access to some tools and resources that they don't have to be able to have more of this go on, even if it's not an MLG branded event, right? It can be a brought to you by thing where we come in there and help them out. Because it's really important from my point of view that live community interaction is something that without that, a lot of the soul of this goes away. Online's great for a lot of things, but you have to do this. You have to look someone in the eye and and play and win and lose and see how you react and go and hang out afterwards and maybe get a drink if you're old enough. That's a really important part of the social experience, and that's what's important to me. So that's not going away anytime soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.